for whatever reason, it looks like I've got one, but I haven't. Right. Very strange angle from this. Yeah, so my name is Paula Warrener. I'm a good friend of Panita's and an ex-colleague, I suppose you could say. And we've worked together at the Health and Wellbeing College from about 10 years ago, up until about a couple of years ago, and I'm still there. What we do there is we basically teach courses around different situations around mental health, different conditions, different environments. We do a lot around anxiety and depression. We do some stuff around carers. We do psychosis. We do sleep. We do all kinds of things. The things that I'm doing here today are what I've been asked to bring. So if there's anything that you want to expand on at another time, please feel free to you know put a message out to me, and I'll do whatever I can. I'm very mindful of the fact that you're going through all kinds of really, really difficult times, and me telling you to do some deep breaths isn't really going to cut it. But what I am going to do is I'm going to go through the 5 ways of well-being, which is basically helping you to sort of reconnect with yourself and your environment and things like that. I appreciate that those of you who have children who aren't actually at home at the minute, this might be the perfect time to try and just grab a little bit of time to put some of this into practice. What that will do is help you to have a lot more sort of stamina when you're back in that environment together, so it's like building up a tolerance, like taking vitamins or something like that. We tend to think of the health and wellbeing college as that, as something it's like going to the gym, but for your mind, for your well-being and stuff like that. So what I'll do is I'll go through this. We'll expand on some of the little areas. If we're running out of time, just shout and I'll talk faster. But what I am going to do as well at the end, if you want to, I'd like you all to join me in a nice guided meditation to finish off, just to sort of relax us. Okay. As I say, I'm not expecting you to walk away from this today and go, that was good, I feel great now, everything's sorted. It doesn't work like that. We know that. Now, this is the key. This is the test. I'm going to try and share the slides. I have just checked them before, but no guarantees. So, can everybody see that?
Yes, we can.
Yep.
It's working.
Yes.
Well, right. So let's just get back to the start. So as I said, what I'm going to talk to you about briefly is the 5 ways to well-being. Now, this is something that was invented because it was decided that actually there are various points where we interact with people or we involve ourselves, which kind of cover all the areas of that touch our life. So that what they came up with was the 5 ways to well-being. Now, it sounds really basic, and it is actually. It is very basic. It's just basically looking at these particular areas and making sure that you have a connection or support or whatever in those areas. It'll make more sense as I go on. So these areas are things like connect. Now, that can mean many things. Be active, take notice, give, and keep learning. So we're going to expand on them as we go through. The reason they were developed, like I say, is because it feels like a bit of an all-consuming sort of circles us all these different things. I never suggest that these 5 steps can help you improve your mental health and well-being, and trying these things could help you feel more positive and able to get the most out of life. Sounds like a big statement, doesn't it? But actually, small things can have big impacts. So what kind of areas do you think would go in any of those areas? Anyone got any ideas? Now, we've talked about those. Anybody got a suggestion or any kind of knowledge that they might want to put into one of those? Anybody?
So I have hi, sorry, it's Mona. We have this religious thing that if you give in charity, it's a means of healing. So every month I give a very small sum, couple of pounds to a charity, and I do it in the name of my son who I want to get better.
That's absolutely the case. Anybody got any ideas about any of the others? Because we will expand on that again in a minute.
I was just going to say, I mean, I do quite a lot of exercise. I get up really early though to do it, normally about 5 o'clock, but it's kind of the only thing that gives me mental respite,
Yeah.
really.
Yeah.
But I
And
am
it's
really struggling to juggle everything, and I'm not really seeing much of my friends. I'm finding it's quite not, I'm not isolating myself, I would say, but it's difficult when you feel like you're banging your head on a brick wall all the time and you're trying to juggle everything. It's hard to stay in touch with friends and things.
It
So that's,
really
sorry,
is.
that's my contribution.
Please don't apologize. I asked for your opinion. So, anybody else got any other thoughts on any of these? What do you think that take notice might be?
That like looking for your environment, so just be like in nature and
Yeah.
things like that.
Just taking pleasure in small things, just noticing small things. About keep learning.
You learn every day. You always learn from somebody. Someone might say something that you didn't know, and actually that's a bit of learning.
Yeah.
Yeah,
mean-
your interests. Let some people love to learn. So as a hobby to learn different language or
Yeah.
learn something new. Yeah.
Yeah. And I
I took
can
on
guarantee.
painting recently.
Say that again, sorry.
Sorry, I said I took on painting recently.
Oh, lovely.
Nice.
Oh, lovely. That's lovely. You can guarantee that each of you have learned an awful lot about your child's condition and all the things relevant for that, that are important to know, and who to talk to and blah, blah, blah. So you've used that learning to expand that knowledge base, but it's, what we need to do is find a way that we can expand on something that will give us a different sensation, a different feeling, because we're chasing that control all the time, aren't we? And part
So
of
the
it
one
is
thing
knowing.
sorry, but I was just going to say the one, because I'm a midwifery lecturer and I've been teaching A&P and I had to revise. So actually I've been listening to podcasts, anatomy
Brilliant.
podcasts, and actually because it's the first time I've done, kind of, so I think podcasts could be quite, when you're driving, it could be quite a good way of learning stuff. It's just
Brilliant.
knowing which ones to go for, isn't it?
It is. And also they're really good when you're trying to get to bed and you just can't switch off. A podcast is a really good way of letting your mind sort of go into something else, because you're listening, you're concentrating on that. And just literally, in addition to that, I've found myself that if it's something that I've heard quite a few times, it's very easy to fall asleep, when you're struggling with that. Oh, that's fab. That's brilliant. That's what I want. I just want to kind of get that we're all on the same page. So it's saying, like I say, just to reiterate, evidence suggests that these 5 steps can help you to improve your mental health and well-being. And trying these things could help you feel more positive and be able get the most out of life. Now, that sounds like, I say, a big ask. Connecting with others, like you've just said, it's difficult because when all you can think about and you're all consumed about the difficulties that you're dealing with, sometimes you haven't got the energy to go and see that friend or make that conversation or make that phone call or arrange to go for that coffee. And also you feel sometimes, I think, with this guilt that we suffer from, for all different kinds of reasons, we're very good at guilt, thinking that if we do go, that's all we're going to talk about, therefore that's not fair on them, etc., etc. But what you are missing out on is the conversations around that. And it's really important to make time to just get that coffee. We're going to do a bit of a timetable thing, or I'm going to leave you with a timetable thing at the end. And the idea of that is what it does is allow you to sort of observe what of these areas you are actually doing and where you could maybe add them. Because what happens is if you start to look at your weekly sort of how you go about things, what you might find is that you're duplicating a lot of things that you could be swapping for something else. But I'll explain that more as we go through. If at any point you think I'm talking rubbish, just give me a shout and I'll yeah. So there's lots of ways. I don't necessarily think we're all going to go to a campsite and eat marshmallows, but actually just doing like a Zoom call with a couple of friends or having a WhatsApp group or something And it doesn't even have to be people that we're friends with. I mean, there are lots of organisations that we can join where we can talk to people who are in like situations. We don't always want that. Sometimes we want to be something away from that, but the options are there. There's also things like, there's quite a few things I'm going to add to the chat before we leave, which are some sort of signposting information for different organisations you can talk to. But you could go to somewhere like, I would normally say our college, but we're waiting to open again at the minute. But that when we're organised, but also things like Anthony Seddon, and there's lots of organisations around Mind. They all do groups where you can meet people, and you don't have to just sit there and talk about all the negatives, which sometimes we want. Sometimes that's the day we want to just really rant. Other days we want to think about something completely different, and that there's lots of arts and crafts and stuff like that, and someone's took up painting, there's all different things you can be doing. Connecting as well can sort of go over to they'd be active as well, because part of your connecting could be that you go for a walk and talk group or something like that, or you go to a Zumba class, and if you've got 2 left feet, I've been classes with Panita, and it's rather funny. We've done our Bollywood together and everything, haven't we? But there's all kinds of things you can be doing. It doesn't have to be anything like I'm going to go and run a marathon. Again, these all kind of interconnect, I find. So this, take notice. If your idea of exercise is to go and really, really sort of pound out at the gym to get, burn off some of that real negative energy, that's brilliant, and that's good for you, and it's doing all the things it's supposed to do. But we're not all as physically able, and it might mean that we're not really in a position to go off by ourselves. It might be that we have to incorporate caring with that. So I mean, there's lots of things like going for a walk and looking at the seasons, and seeing what the terrain feels like under your feet. Does it change from grass to stone to gravel to what are the smells? If you work in Tameside, it's usually the biscuit factory, isn't it? But there's all different things that go on as you walk around, noises, sounds. So they do cross over a lot. There's a strong evidence that indicates that feeling close to and valued by other people is a fundamental human need, and one that contributes to functioning well in the world. Basically, we are pack animals, and we need, even if we just have a small amount of contact, we need it. Some of us are introverts, some of us are extroverts. And the idea is that some of us recharge by being around people, and other people recharge by being away. Now, you dance to your own tune, whatever suits you. I used to be the sort of person that recharged around people. Now I'm getting older. I want to go home and have a nice quiet night and watch Traitors or whatever. It's clear that social relationships are critical for promoting well-being and for acting as a buffer against mental ill health for people of all ages. And we know, particularly with the elderly, the more we isolate ourselves, the harder it is. The more support we need in the long run. Being active, we've talked about how, some of us go to gym and things like that. I like to dance. I love I love a good dance. And I'm now allowed to go, I'm at the age now where I'm allowed to go with my mum to the over 50s disco she goes to. So I tend to do that quite often now. And it's great because you get there, they do a nice pizza, you have a right good dance, and you're home in bed for 10:30. So, we're all happy. But it doesn't have to be dead vigorous. It doesn't have to be dead physical. It can be gentle. It can be yoga. It can be Pilates. It can be stretching. It can be Tai Chi. It can be anything. The only thing that might cause a problem is your lack of time, your lack of inclination or intention, because you just can't be bothered, because it's just another job. And I found that a lot with, when we've talked to people in classes over the years, when we say, let's do some mindfulness, and they go, not another bloody thing to do, and that's how people tend to sort of react to it quite often. But actually the benefit is phenomenal, and it's just finding a way to just try it and dip your foot in and see what you think. So being active, regular physical activities associated with lower rates of depression and anxiety across all age groups. Exercise is essential for slowing age-related cognitive decline and for promoting well-being. You know, the more active you are, the more your brain's getting all this information and impulses. But it doesn't need to be particularly intense for you to feel good. Slow-paced activities such as walking can have the benefit of encouraging social interactions as well as providing some level of exercise. So I think you know, we need to sort of pat ourselves on the back if we're doing anything, even if we get off a bus stop early or something like that. It's really important. All right, the weather's horrible, so go up and down the stairs a few times. You know, if you've got washing to take up, just do it a couple of times in different loads. You know, just get get your heart rate going a little bit. Like I say, go out for that walk and just enjoy it's a funny time of year. This is my time of year. I like this time of year. This, you know, the autumnal going into winter and Halloween and all that. Think I'm an autumn person. But there's some beautiful colours. Oh my goodness, if you walk around and you see all the different colours in the trees, and it's absolutely, sometimes it's just nice to see something and go, wow. But if we don't take notice, if we don't look around us as we're going out, we miss all that. Now, we just talked about take notice in the list where we went through what each thing might be. How often do you just sit down and eat your lunch? Do you have a break for lunch? Anyone? No, I can see. No. So basically, those things like meal times are really good anchors for the day. And what they do is they allow us to just sit down and take stock and just sort of have a think about where we're going to go next. Because what we do is we run from one thing to the next thing to the next thing. And there's something that I've built up over the years that I kind of, it come to me one day and I started using it in classes and I found it really, really good. So basically, if anyone's writing to-do lists and then they're going, hang on a minute, I haven't done that, and you start pulling yourself apart over it. How about you write some to-done lists? So basically what I do is I write down all the things I did get done. And actually, when you look at it and you look at all the things you did achieve, just because they weren't on your list, it's probably double. Yeah. But what that's doing is allowing you to acknowledge the things you did achieve rather than sitting and looking at the things you didn't do. To me, I think that has a fundamental shift, you know, in terms of, hang on a minute, this is why I haven't got anything done. I've been that blooming busy. And you know, you need to go, flipping heck, I've done loads of that. Was brilliant, really well done. So there's lots of things like that you can do to take notice, isn't there? Yeah, whether it's just looking at the leaves, whether it's, you know, getting an adult colouring book, or, you know, doing something sort of mindful, like we're going to do a guided meditation shortly. Anything else you can think of in terms of take notice that anyone can suggest or that they've tried?
Sitting in silence.
Yeah. Who can
Which is
do
really
that?
hard.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? To me, that's like, you know, some people, right. So if we were to look at it in terms of formal and informal sort of meditation, or, you know, mindfulness, should we say? So you've got the informal stuff, which is the walking, which is, you know, doing all the creative stuff and things like that. And then you've got the formal stuff, which is more like the, you know, if you're really committed to, say, yoga and breathing exercises and, you know, really training in that. There is abilities in that to sort of get and be still and be quiet and stuff like that. But when we're all mired and stuff like that, and we've got everything going on, it's a bit difficult sometimes. But if you know, if you can get to that, guided meditation, fantastic. I always pick guided meditation. Just the cue is just make sure, key rather, is that you don't find the voice annoying. Because if it's like, I'm from California, and you know, and you're just like, oh God, no. You need someone you can sit and listen to for a while, otherwise that's just going to be unbearable. Deepak, oh my goodness, there's some wonderful things you can do there. Wonderful guided meditations. And it might be that your sit still might just require that little extra component, and you know, it could be good. Another thing is, we were just talking about not sitting down for our meals and having that time. Eating itself is a very mindfulness activity. So if you're eating a sandwich even, or, you know, you tasting the different fillings and the layers of different, you know, if you're eating a pasta dish that you've made and you've created it yourself and you're like, I can taste the basil, or I can taste the onion, or I can taste this, that and the other. There's a really good guided, pardon me, eating exercise, and it's called mindful eating. And what they tend to do is they use a raisin. Now everyone goes, raisin. But the reason they use that is because it's got so many dimensions to it. So if you were to say, you know, you get the little snap size ones that you can get in like Lidl and Aldi, or Laldi as I call it, because I go to get them mixed up. But if you get one of those and you can feel it, or the ridges, it feels like it's something from an alien place. You can smell it, and it might invoke Christmas or mince pies. Greg's mince pies are out. It could be that you taste it and it invokes like memories of your Auntie Pat's Christmas pudding, you know, or, you know, it might be that you start to feel, you know, your jaw getting ready to want to chew or swallow, and you start to feel, even talking about it now, can you feel that your jaws are the saliva's coming through, isn't it? We're just talking about it, you know. So imagine if you was to sit and practice doing that. You know, does it make a noise? Probably not. If it does, I'd probably be a bit worried. But, you know, there's all these different elements to one little tiny thing that you go through all of the five senses basically. So, you know, trying things like that, you know, if anybody wants anything sending out where I can give you lists of little activities to do, then please give me a shout. I know Panita's in touch with me, so she can get whatever. Or if you want me to do anything at a later date, whatever. So we talked about take notice. So we're taking notice of the fact that we're actually tired. We're taking notice of the fact that we are craving something that's going to lift us. So whether that's treating yourself to a nice plant or a nice bunch of flowers, or, you know, I like to go in the kitchen and bake. I love baking, me. That makes me feel better. Normally I have a Labrador that wants to come and dance in the kitchen with me, which we do quite often. We do a lot of dancing in the kitchen. You know, just walking around, listening to the birds, hearing the noises, hearing the sounds. The sound thing's quite good because what it does is it helps to sort of drown out some of the thoughts sometimes. So, you know, if you've got a lot of stuff going on that's really, really heavy, there's lots of things you can get, like sound machines and stuff where they play like different things like waves and all that. But one of the best ones I found is it plays a train station, and it goes into the background almost, so you don't even really hear, you don't, it's just like and it goes like and you just sort of hear it all, and you get really sort of drawn into it, you know, and it's really nice, and you know, it gets you, you know, you just drift off into some sort of story, or so there's lots and lots of stuff like that you can do. So when we talk about take notice, reminding yourself to take notice and be in the moment can strengthen and broaden your awareness. Studies have shown that being aware of what is taking place in the present directly enhances your well-being. Savouring the moment can help reaffirm your life priorities. Heightened awareness also enhances your self-understanding and allows you to make positive choices based on your own values and motivation. Take some time to enjoy the moment and the environment around you. So, okay, it might just seem like, oh God, what I'm going to do now, I've got to think of something else to do. But actually what that does is give you that strength, and it gives you that resilience. It builds it up, and it's medically proven. You know, there are research papers, there's all sorts of studies been done. The more you actually do try and do a bit of mindfulness or get into something that's going to benefit you in that way, it actually does build up your mental resilience, your physical resilience, and your immune system, all those things. So, you know, it's got to be worth a look at, hasn't it? Yeah. I mean, if you can want to start off just trying little short things. I mean, if you're struggling to fit this stuff in, it could be that you know that you have to drive to a certain place twice a week. Get there 10 minutes earlier, listen to a guided meditation in the car before you go out, you know, find little ways to sort of slip it in. And when we, like I say, we'll go to this chart later, and now learn. So yeah, like I said earlier, what we do is we learn about the things we out of necessity. We do, you know, we look at the things that mean that we need, you know, we've got more information in order to get the answers we need, and etc. But what about just learning for the sake of it? Yeah, just reading something different or looking at something different. I've been reading up about bread recently. That's my thing at the minute, because I want to start doing some bread. My husband's from part Finnish, and I've been trying to make Paula, which is a really scrummy, but it is a bit of a pain. But, you know, these little things are things that just allow you that little bit of a rest, you know, in terms of doing something else. No, is there anything that you've always wanted to do? I mean, I'm not suggesting that with the stuff that's going in your life, you've got time to go, I'm going to go and get a guitar and learn it. But you know what? There's a lot of good YouTube videos out there, even if you try it once in a while. There's all sorts of things you can try. Learning a language, you know, I noticed the other day there was something where you could get a calendar, and this calendar would send you Japanese phrases every day. So you pick it up, and I thought, oh, that's quite an interesting thought. So, you know, learn a subject. Have you always wanted to know about the Romans, or have you ever wanted to know about, I don't know, the origins of macrame? You know, have a think about it, what it might be that you might want to look at. There's so much that we don't know. I mean, even those top 100 books or something like that, you know, it's amazing when you learn something different. It feels really empowering. I like the word of the day things as well. Quite like to learn a word of the day when I remember. So what we're saying here is continued learning through life enhances self-esteem. Apologies, my dogs are running at the door. And encourages social interaction and more active life. So again, we said earlier about those things sort of crisscrossing, learning if you're going into a different environment to do so, or you're doing it with somebody else. It helps to incorporate, you know, different relationships and making other friends and learning together. So you've got that social element again, haven't you? The connection. Anecdotal evidence suggests that the opportunity to engage in work or educational activities particularly helps to lift older people out of depression. And the practice of setting goals, which is related to adult learning, has been strongly associated with higher levels of well-being. I know if I go to do anything new, I have to buy a new notebook because I'm a bit obsessed with stationery. But you know, there's lots of things that you can get sort of pleasure out of, and it's what it's about is just getting that little bit of that sensation, feeling it, holding it, just keeping it for a little bit longer, a few more extra seconds, whatever it may be, and just going, do you know what? That's really nice, or I'm really glad I did that, or that was really interesting, or that cake is delicious, or you know, whatever it is that you're trying to do. Give back. Again, I know culturally and religiously, there's a lot of around giving, you know, raising money for areas, and I used to raise money for the Christie years ago. You know, there is a lot to be gained from that, but it doesn't have to be mega extreme. It doesn't have to be, I mean, we're all skint these days, aren't we? You know, it could be simple as saying to a neighbour, do you need me to get you in a shopping because you know they're struggling? Or do you need, you know, would you like a lift to the doctors? Would it be, you know, like, would you like me to help you with this paperwork? It could be anything. It doesn't have to be anything massive and grand, but it has the result of making you feel better. It does help you, you know, because I mean, a lot of us aren't very good at accepting that help, especially if we've had to fight and fight and fight. But actually, it will give us the same sort of lift as doing something else that might, you know, that nice piece of cake or whatever. It's really important, and it really does. You wanted to say something, Panita?
Yeah, I just wanted to come in at that giving back when you said about it doesn't have to be that like expensive. So one of my friends lost her little boy, her son,
Oh dear.
and I just felt really helpless. I'm like, how do I give back?
Mm-hmm.
And I just said, would you like me to cook you tea one day? And she was like, absolutely. So just something like making somebody, I went from an but just making somebody like some tea. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really, really good one. Yeah, absolutely. Just topping off a meal for somebody. A meal is just, it's massive because it just makes you feel better because it's someone's took the time to think to do that for you. And it might be just an extra portion of what you were making anyway, but it's not to them. It really isn't. But they do help you, they give you the good endorphins and the good chemicals, just by doing things like that. So participation in social and community life has attracted a lot of attention in the field of wellbeing and research. Individuals who report a higher interest in helping others are more likely to rate themselves as happy. Research into actions for promoting happiness has shown that committing an act of kindness once a week over a 6-week period is associated with an increase in well-being. So, you might think, actually, I've got enough on my plate, but just little things. It doesn't have to be anything big. It could be just coming back from lunch, if you're at work or whatever, and saying, oh, I've brought you a biscuit as well, or, So anybody aware of any things that they're doing in these categories already? Or are we all a bit lacking in this? And that's not a criticism or a negative. It's just that we have to be aware of where we are. Otherwise, we don't know what it is we want to impact on.
I think like a lot of these I'm doing, but I don't want to. So my mum went on a diabetes walk with my son a couple of weeks ago, and she got so much out of that. And I could have gone for 4 years in a row, and I haven't done. And I realized I think I'm just doing all of this on my own, and that's part of the problem. I need to be doing this with someone else. And I think maybe like I'm going to reach, I've just been on the Recovery College website and I've missed it by 2 days, an amazing course. And I think I need to be more conscious of what I want to ask people for help with, because all these people can say, what can we do? And should we talk to? And all the nurses and all the carers, support workers. And I think now I'm going to be very specific. I want to find a course like this, help me, or I want you to take me to a session at Mind to do with exercise or fitness. Maybe that's my own neurodiversity coming into play, but I just don't want to do it on my own anymore. And that's probably why my child is so used to doing stuff on his own, because I do it on my own and then I think he's abnormal. So yeah, I'm going to take these 5, but I need to find 5 people to do it with, I guess.
It might be, might be one of them that is really helpful. No, definitely, that is a really, really good point. And the connect, if you went to do this diabetes walk and you did walks together, you're connecting. Yeah. You're taking notice to the environment you're walking around. You're getting like 3 or 4 of those in one go. So, you might think, oh my God, there's 5 different elements I've got to sort of spread time across, but actually they do overlap. But absolutely brilliant. Anyone else?
I think I'm going to come in on behalf of the parents. I think they do this generally with their young people without realizing. So again, they connect with people like us and the professionals. They're constantly taking notice of their young person. They're always giving. Active wise, I'd probably say that running around after them, and they're constantly learning because they're always trying to find out information, what's going on with their young person. So I brought it from a very different angle, but I want them to be aware that they're always doing this.
They are, absolutely. And that from the beginning we said you've got that much on your plate. And again, this is why I encourage things like this to-do list, because the amount of things that we are doing outweigh a lot of things that we feel we're failing at. But in terms of what, like Panita said, you're doing all these things for everybody else, perhaps, but what are you doing for you? What are you doing that's just solely for you, that you can do, where you can have that respite, where you can have that, time outdoors, or, there's something about going outside, it's really, really useful for sleep, for everything. It's really good for sleep hygiene, and because we're led by that. We're led by what goes on out there, and if we're dipping in and out in the day, it will help you in a lots of ways. It helps your rhythm and the way that your system needs to sort of react to the points in the day. Like your meals and your anchors. It's dead important. Anybody else before we move on?
I was just going to say, I've been on a walking holiday recently.
Oh,
I
lovely.
did 5 days in Spain, and I was like, when I come back, I'm going to walk every day. So my initial thing of doing it, I did like the weekend that I came back in a bit of the beginning of last week, but I have fallen off a little bit. But I think it's trying to like remind yourself and be present again, because I think you get drawn into life, don't you? And that kind of can sometimes take over, and it's a bit darker nights, and I've obviously been walking in the summer and it's been really nice here, and then obviously I've gone away with friends and done the walk. But yeah, I really enjoy walking. I get a lot out of walking, and the environment, and obviously going on a walking holiday and meeting lots of other people has been kind of an amazing experience. But I think it's trying to remember to kind of be in the moments and do that when you're back at home, when your life is busy, you know what I mean? Because obviously when I've done it as a holiday, which is nice, and that's what you've set out to do. But yeah, just being mindful when you're back at home and having that space and time to do stuff and keep doing it.
Absolutely. Perfect. Yeah. And also it's when you do fall off the wagon a little bit, it's not being defeatist about it. It's saying, all right, I haven't done it this week. Well, sometimes we get to a point when we go, well, there's no point now. I've ruined it, kind of thing. But actually, it doesn't matter how many times you start it again, as long as you try again, because we can tend to do that, can't we? Brilliant. Excellent. Good work, everyone. So it may be that through this, you've come up with certain areas where you think, perhaps I'm not touching on that area. Yeah, because they all give you something different, all of these areas. They give you different chemicals, different emotions, different, and they build a big picture of different things. So if there's areas there that you think that you might want to put more of an input into, is there anybody who's sort of gone from this, I'm going to go and do such and such, that you might do that you've not done before, or you've noticed that you've got, that's where you're lacking? Okay. So now we've explored it, it's looking how we're going to put it in. So this is giving you an example of a weekly planner. So what they've done here is, this is just all the 5 ways to well-being examples. It's not including all the things you're already doing. So you might look at that and go, well, that looks great, but there's nothing else filled in. But what it's doing you is giving you examples of different things. So it could be week 1, on Monday, coffee with friends, learning to cook something new, volunteer, a meditation, take the dog for a walk. They don't have to be massive things. It might be that you try certain things, think, no, I'm not really interested in, cooking, or I might be really into cooking. It might be that that's something you think, oh, I'm going to drop some of the other things, but I want to try that. Swimming, walking to work, phoning a friend, new skills. There's lots of different things. Go on a sunrise walk. If you're up and you can't sleep anyway, maybe that's something you want to try, where it's so quiet and peaceful and there's nobody else around, obviously be safe. And that's basically, different examples there. And if you look at where you are spending your time, sometimes it's nice to sort of have a look at and plan a week of what you are doing, because it helps you to sort of say, like I said earlier, it might be that you notice duplications or things that you think, why am I doing that for? I don't really need to do that anymore. And find out places where you can drop these in, the guided meditations or the podcasts, things like that. Those are things you can do either when you've gone to bed, or if you're pulling up somewhere and you've got time to kill, think, right, I'll just listen to this for a minute before I go in. But let's see what we can try, and see if it works, and maybe feedback to each other. So is everybody okay with that? Again, it's just what I've been asked to sort of concentrate on today. Is everybody okay with us doing a guided meditation before I leave you? Anybody who doesn't want to do it? No, you're all okay? Yeah. So I'm going to come out of this so I can see a little bit better about where everybody is. Oh, awesome. That's great. So if you're interested in this guided meditation, what I'd like you to do is, I think the first thing you need to do is think about how you're sitting, where you're sitting, how your body is in this place. You know, have you got something to support your back? If you want to go and sit on the floor or the bed or whatever suits you, what makes you comfortable. I want you to, first of all, just have an awareness of your feet, maybe a little bit apart with room to sort of move them around. And what we want to do is make sure that your feet are flat against the floor, because what it does is it creates a sort of anchor and it makes you feel safer. Okay, make sure that your arms are loose. You want your arms to be loose, because if you're scrunching up your fists or feeling tension in there, then you're not going to get as much out of it. And looking at your shoulders and letting them drop. It's really important that you know, literally just by dropping your shoulders, you can completely change how you're feeling. It's amazing. Just looking and thinking, hang on, my shoulders are up around my ears, because that's where they usually end up. But actually letting them drop, it's massive. And then what you're going to do is, I want you to do a few big deep breaths in, then out. So I'm going to guide you. So in, out, in, out, in, out. Now just for a second there, those deep breaths, that drop in your shoulders, just acknowledge any shifts in how your body feels. Does it feel different? Do you feel like you've calmed slightly? You know, how does it feel? We're going to work our way up. We're going to do a thing called a body scan. So what I want you to do is, I want you to notice your feet. How are your feet? Are there any sensations in your feet? You feel tingling? Are they hot? Are they cold? Can you wiggle your toes? Can you move your whole feet around in your shoes and place them back so you can feel the flat floor? How are your ankles? Are they tired? Are they achy? How are your legs? Your calves? Up to your knees. Your knees. Very, very important joints, aren't they? They take a lot of strain. Up to your thighs and your buttocks. And tighten all your muscles. And then let them go. Feel that sensation on the chair. That relaxation. Stretch your legs out in front of you. Now that you've stretched all the way up. And then just place them back on the floor. Now come into your tummy. We hold an awful lot of stress there in our tummies, don't we? Just notice the sensation. Going up into your chest. All the tightness that you have there. Take a nice deep breath in and feel your rib cage as it goes in and out. In and out. In and out. Almost like all the negative stuff's just flowing out with each exhale. And go to your shoulders and down your arms. What do you feel there? What's the sensation? And you feel them as if they're weighted so that they're just dropping. And they're extra anchors, keeping you grounded. And then go to your neck. Your neck and your skull all goes round, doesn't it? What does your neck feel like? Is there tension in it? Does it ache? What about your face, your cheeks, your eyes, your mouth, your jaw? How does that feel? And you feel the tension leaving because you're aware of how it was. And it's nice sometimes to just lift your skull away from your head, just to feel that kind of stretch in your neck. Nothing too serious, nothing too heavy. And just gently relax in the position you are. And just acknowledge any changes in sensation, how you feel now. Notice it. I want you to imagine a picture. This picture can be anything that you want. It can be a beach, a forest, a castle with a moat. It can be a hillside, a babbling brook. What does it look like, this place? It's your place. You can come back here whenever you want. What does it feel like? Is the air warm or cool? Is there a breeze or is it still? What are the smells? Can you smell the sea? Can you smell the moss? What does this place need to feel safe? Does it need a moat or people? Does it need gates or brick walls? Or are you content to let it flow into the distance? Remember this place. Remember that you can access this place whenever you want to. Now, just for a couple of minutes, experience this place, how you feel, what it looks like, all the little details. Just spare a couple of minutes exploring. Staying where you are. Enjoying the sensations. Start to feel your body, how it feels in the chair. Start to acknowledge your breath. Start to open awareness of where you are, knowing that whenever you want, you can return and take your time, and only when you're feeling ready, come back and open your eyes. Is everybody okay? You fell
Yes,
fell
yes,
asleep.
thank you.
Pardon me. Apologies for the dog at the wrong point in time. Somebody's special place must have acquired a nice dog running around shouting at the passers-by.